Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you very much for joining our Microsoft 365 Masterclass webinar, which today we'll be focusing on business voice. So kind of the agenda that we'll be looking to cover today is an introduction around what business voice is and the licensing that's available. We'll give you a live demonstration of business voice itself and how that works. We've got our partners, Scipio, and a fellow called Neil joining us today, who will talk us through that product and platform and how that integrates with business voice. We'll talk about some of the hardware available from Polly and Jabra, and we'll have some questions available as we go through the session. As I said earlier on, we're going to record the session. It'll be available on our website at the end. And if you have any questions as we're going through today, just feel free to post those in the Q&A function on Microsoft Teams, and we'll look to answer those at the very end of the session as well. The technologies we'll be looking to explore today are business voice, the licensing around business voice, Microsoft Teams, Scipio and how the costings work for that platform, and obviously the Teams hardware that's available to you as well. So business voice really helps us with a few different challenges. What we found with COVID is that lots of organizations have struggled to have an effective phone system and move to this remote way of working. So there's been a real struggle for organizations who have a legacy phone system where they've struggled to get that functionality working properly and working in their remote environments. So Microsoft Teams has released a new product which is called Business Voice, and really it's a 100% cloud-based application that allows users to call from any location using the Microsoft Teams client. So it means that there's no challenges with your phone calls, there's nothing like VPN requirements, there's no strange connectivity requirements. It's 100% based in the cloud, and it's available in most countries now in which we can allocate a phone number and get that set up. Now, business voice licensing is very simple. We have a business voice plan. So you can see here we have the Microsoft 365 business voice. The cost for this is £12 per user per month. However, at the moment, they're running a special offer that for the first year, this would be £9 per user per month. So there's a special discount that's available currently that will allow you to get that cheaper for the first year. It's also bundled in the Office 365 and Microsoft 365 E5 licenses, although you will need to add a call plan on top of that. So it's not kind of completely free. There will be some costs associated with it. Now, we also have the Microsoft 365 business voice piece, which includes without a calling plan. So our business voice plan includes a call plan, and it basically means that I can make 1,200-minute domestic calls, and there's an add-on available for £9 per user per month that allows me to do 600 minutes of international calling. So if your organization needs to do lots of international calls, you'd be looking at around £21 per user per month in total to do domestic and international calling. Now, the Microsoft 365 Business Voice without a call plan is £7.50 per user per month, and that's where our partner Scipio will come into play, where they're able to offer packages that are perhaps cheaper than the default Microsoft 365 Business Voice plan. So we'll talk about that more as we go through the presentation today. We're also offering a free trial in which we can do and set up a trial for you guys 1 month for free. So we can get 25 of your users set up on this platform. We can show you how it works. We can get it started and you can completely test that platform for free then. And as I said, for the first year, the Microsoft 365 Business Voice plan is £9 a user a month. So if anybody wants to take advantage of that free month or the discounted first year, feel free to reach out after our presentation today. We're going to jump straight into an overview of Business Voice, and I'm going to kind of show you how this platform works and some of the functionality that it has available to us. So I'm going to do this through the web browser version so it doesn't conflict with my Teams live event today. And you'll see as soon as I come into Microsoft Teams, I have a section available to me on the left-hand side called Calls. So pretty much everything that I would do from this platform is driven from the Calls tab on the left-hand side. And what I'm able to do from here is a few different things. So you can see the first thing that I got is my direct dial number. So that means that anybody who wants to reach me can call my direct dial number, and I will then receive a pop-up notification in the lower right-hand corner, which I'll show you in a second. We also can send calls from this platform, so I can kind of dial a mobile phone number in here, like my mobile phone, and that'll then allow me to send a call, whether it's a domestic or an international call then. There's a few kind of pieces of functionality you'd expect with a phone system. So I have the ability to create a speed dial section. So some of my key contacts that I call all the time are available on here. And it's really easy to add those in. I just hit add speed dial and I can type the number in that I'd like to have on this list here. I've got a contact section available on the left-hand side, which basically synchronizes with your Outlook contacts. So if I create them in Outlook, they'll appear here. And similarly, if I add a contact here, they'll show up in the Outlook side of things. So they just keep those two in sync all the time. History shows you all the people that you've kind of sent and received calls recently. So whether they're through Microsoft Teams, like some of my colleagues here, or also I can see the kind of numbers that have called me directly. And what I can do in here is I can click the ellipses and I can kind of choose the block option. So it allows me to block that call and stop me from receiving calls in there. So quite an easy piece of functionality. If you're getting pest calls all the time, you can block those off. We've also kind of got some hidden options in the top right-hand corner here. So within this top right-hand corner section, I can click on Valto. And if I go into my settings, you'll notice that I've got this section here called calls. So what the calls allows me to do is define some rules on how, when people do call me, how that call is going to come through to this platform and what I can handle from there. So the first thing is I can set calls ring me, and I can also have it also simultaneously ring perhaps my coworker if I'm not going to be available and I'm expecting an important call. I can also have it ring my mobile phone number. So perhaps if I know that I'm not going to be on Teams or I've got low signal on my phone, then I could use this and it'll then forward that call to my mobile phone so I can pick it up that way. I can also define some rules here that if I don't pick that call up, that after 20 seconds, it will then kind of go to this. So I've got a call answering service that it'll ring after 20 seconds. Or I could kind of define that I'd like it to go to a voicemail. Or again, I could set a coworker in here. So one thing I find great with this platform is you don't have to give anybody your direct dial number. So if I didn't, your mobile phone number. So if I didn't want to give people my mobile phone number so they could ring me all hours under the sun, I could just give people my direct dial number here. And I can then choose this forward calls option, which will allow me then to say forward all the calls to the voicemail or forward my calls to my mobile phone. And this forwarding of calls works really well. What it does is it bounces that call through to your mobile phone and it'll bring all the caller ID information over when it does it. So it's quite a handy piece of functionality. It's not just going to be a blind call. You don't know who it is. It'll kind of bring that information along with it. My favorite piece of functionality in here is we've got this configure voicemail. So the configuring the voicemail allows you to record a greeting, which as you'd expect, it would just basically allow you to kind of record a message after the beep. But the thing that I use most and I use all the time is that I've got this out of office greeting. So if you're in the habit of setting your out of office when you're going on annual leave or holiday or something like that, you can come into the out of office greeting section here and you can choose this option to say when I have an Outlook auto reply. So what that means is it'll actually read with a robot, but it sounds quite good to say, hi, Hugh's unavailable this week. He's currently on holiday. He's expected back on the 4th of May or whatever date that I've put in my out of office reply. So it means that you guys can easily have a dynamic out of office greeting. You don't have to go in and record a new voicemail message every time you're away. You can actually use this to play either your Outlook auto reply, or if you set out of office on your calendar events, it'll read those as well. And similarly, you can type a message in this section here, but really the kind of most powerful piece is this out of office greeting section that we have just here. We also kind of get another piece of functionality. So if I was just to temporarily change my status in the top right hand corner so I can receive a call, then as I call my direct dial number on this platform, you'll notice that as I start to call my number, I'm just calling myself from my mobile phone. In the bottom right-hand corner, I've got the ability to answer my mobile phone call. So if I just answer this, once I'm in a call on the system, you kind of get a few useful pieces of functionality that perhaps aren't available with a traditional phone system. You can mute and unmute yourself, which is available on everything. You can put a call on hold. I can transfer a call straight to a colleague. So if I wanted to transfer this to Jade, I can just search for Jade in this list here, and then I can kind of send a message to transfer it over to her. Another great piece of functionality, though, is the consult then transfer. So this allows you to quickly consult with somebody. So if I was going to consult with Steve, I could just say, hey, are you free for a call? And I can kind of send that message to him and he can instant message me back. Or I can kind of hit this call option in the top right hand corner and we'll receive that call. And then I can kind of transfer it, or I can go back to the person who's calling and say that Steve's not available or he's not able to speak to you right now. So the kind of functionality of the calling within here is quite good. Another feature that I use all the time in here is this kind of participants option. So perhaps I'm on a call with Jade and it would be useful to loop in another one of my colleagues, Martin. So while I'm on a conference call at the moment, I'm on a call between myself and my mobile phone. I can quickly just loop in my colleagues. I could search for Jade in this list or Martin, and we can then have a quick conference call and loop all those parties that need to be involved on it. So it's a fantastic way of I might start a conversation with my boss on my phone, and then I might need to loop another person in who's involved in the project, and I can just do that by typing it into the top right hand corner, and we've got a really quick way of having a conference. The other cool thing that we have in this is the start recording. So you're able to record calls as you need to. So if this call is something I needed to refer back to, I can hit start recording, and that'll enable me then to have a recording that will be stored in my OneDrive after the call. So that's kind of a good piece. It's not a compliance function. So we have a few customers who would like to use business voice and they'd like automated call recording. So they might have a contact center or something like that. There is that functionality available. So there is call recording third-party solutions that are available for contact centers. But the feature that I'm showing you at the moment is more of an ad hoc call, and you'd have to manually inform the other party that you're recording them. There's nothing automated from that side of things. So I can leave that call. The other fantastic piece of functionality that we have as part of the business voice is that when I'm hosting a meeting within this platform, it will automatically enable a conference call number for people to dial in. So you may have noticed if you guys are using Microsoft Teams currently, you're able to send out a Teams link and anybody in the world can click it. But when we're using Microsoft Teams and we set them up from within this platform, you can see that I've kind of got the functionality in here to add a call option in here. So it basically gives you the option to add that call into the system then. So I can do that easily. The next thing I wanted to show you guys is around the kind of back end. So some of the functionality that we have from the back end side of things. So the kind of options that we have available I've showed you so far is all about the end user. It's about how I can send and receive calls. But hidden in the back end, we've got quite a lot of functionality that enables you to build that full phone system as you'd expect with a phone system. So it'll have the ability for us to do call routing and redirect calls and stuff as well. So I'm just getting that loaded up in the back end now. And then we'll kind of show you that piece of functionality as we do so. So as we go into the Microsoft Teams Admin Center here, you can see that this is just loaded up now. You can see down the left-hand side, I've got a section here that's called Voice. So what the voice side of things allows me to do is configure all the options that I have available for Microsoft Teams. So as an example here, I've got one for operators. So the operators allow you to decide on kind of third-party products that are available that can kind of give you additional phone numbers. So if I'm looking to kind of buy phone numbers or integrate with the third party, this is a new piece of functionality that allows you to kind of plug your phone numbers in and do that kind of thing. I can also click the phone numbers section in here, and Microsoft have a built-in functionality that allows you to request a phone number. So I can kind of come into here, I can search for a particular region. So I might be looking for UK phone numbers. And you can see that I can request different types there. So I'm able to request user phone numbers, call queue phone numbers. So there's a few different types of calls and numbers that I'm able to allocate. I can choose a quantity. So depending on how many licenses you have available will determine how many you get within this platform. So I'm able to kind of say, I'd like 5 of these, and I can then choose the city that I'd like to get from as well. Not every city is available in this list at the moment, but they're expanding all the time. So that's the kind of first piece within here. I'm able to kind of get my phone numbers. The next thing that I'm able to do is I can set up call queues. So the idea of a call queue is, you can see some good examples here. I've got an accounts call queue, and within there's 3 individuals who will receive that call. There's a projects call queue, a sales call queue, and etc. So effectively, your call queues are you defining groups of people to say, I would like to receive a call from sales, and here's all the sales members that should receive it. And when you're within a call, you can see quite a few different pieces of functionality. We can assign a phone number to it if we need to. We can give it a dedicated calling ID, so we can mask this phone call so it doesn't always show from this. We can have specific greeting and on hold music, and we can define the groups of people that this would call. Within a call queue, we've got different routing methods as well. So we can do attendant routing, which allows you to kind of call everybody at the same time, and the first person to pick it up will get that call. We get serial routing, which allows it to ring the agents one by one until somebody picks it up. We get the round robin, which will kind of distribute those calls equally across the different platform until every agent gets a unique amount of calls. And we get the longest idle, which will be the kind of agent who's had the longest presence of available, so they've not picked up any calls for a long time. Presence routing allows you to kind of decide if people can receive calls if their status in Teams is busy or not. And then we can define some rules on what happens if you receive too many calls. So you can see if this call queue receives more than 200 calls, it redirects to another call queue. If somebody doesn't pick up the sales call after 15 seconds, it redirects to an external call answering service. So you can kind of define your rules on call queues. If someone doesn't answer the support call after 15 minutes, we could route it to a different team who would pick that up. So it's really flexible from that perspective. The auto attendance is kind of defining the rules of what happens. So when somebody phones the auto attendant number, this mainline number here, we can then define on what the rules are. So you can see we can play an audio greeting. I'll just go into a slightly different one in here. You can see if I was to go into this one, then I can kind of go to the next page. We can see that it'll play a greeting message, and then it'll kind of ring these options, and we'll go to the next page, and we can define on what the call hours and when we'll receive those calls. So we'll only receive calls between our operating hours, 8:30 and 5. We can set up an after hours call message. So if I wanted to receive and play a message to say, sorry, we're closed, and I can also redirect calls and do the same thing as well. So an auto attendant is all about setting up that mainline phone number or mainline phone numbers. You can define your holidays so that we know that it'll go, if there's a bank holiday or something, it can again have different rules. And we can kind of, on the main section here, you can see we can say press 1 for support, press 2 for sales, 3 for projects, and do that kind of thing. So it's all kind of really easy to set up and configure. And these pressing 1 will go to the call queues that I described earlier. So it enables you to push these messages to different call queues. So that kind of in a summary, a whistle stop tour is the kind of functionality that we have available for the Microsoft Teams call-in side of things. So obviously from the user perspective, they can send and receive calls and set up those call routings themselves. But then from the back end here, we're able to request phone numbers. We're able to set up those call queues, those groups of users that should send and receive those calls as a group. And we can set up an auto attendant, which is press 1 for sales, press 2 for support, and then configure that. So that the system is really, really flexible in what it can do. Some of the weaknesses that it's worth mentioning and kind of has been a limiting factor for some people moving to business voice is that the reporting isn't fantastic. So the out of the box reporting that we have available to us, I can kind of jump in and I can see the calls and SMS that have been done in the last 28 days, and you can see how many calls people have made and what they've done, but it's very, very limited. We work with some organizations who like to have kind of up-to-date information about how many calls were dropped, how long are people on calls for, how long are people waiting on calls for. That is an area at the moment where business voice is quite weak, and it can kind of be strengthened with third-party products, which is something that Neil can talk us through as well. The other area that it's weak is it in the call recording side of things. So obviously, as I said at the beginning, it's not a call recording piece of functionality. We can manually record calls, but if you need contact center type records where you're going to automatically record the calls, this isn't perhaps the right platform for you guys. It might be something that you would look at third-party products to bolster Microsoft Teams Business Voice. So I'm going to hand over to Neil, who's from Scipio, who's now going to talk us through the product offering that they have. Neil?
Hugh, thank you very much, and good afternoon, everybody. Appreciate your time today. In a series of 3 or 4 slides, I just want to share with you some insights around how the telephony and the calling in Teams can be extended or amplified and accelerated with the direct routing option. So Hugh has taken you through a great demo of the Microsoft phone system, which is the engineering built into Teams, and the calling plans that are attached to that courtesy of Microsoft and their own carriers. Now, by design, Microsoft has opened this ecosystem to what it calls direct routing partners, people like us. We're a global carrier. We provide tier 1 services across 60 countries. This is the 3rd iteration of a cloud platform we've built with initially with other vendors, but clearly, as I'll share with you, as the market has moved towards collaboration in the last 2 or 3 years, then this direct routing market augments and gives you, the customers, options to look at both alternatives. So as an organization, again, we work closely with Microsoft. What I'll share with you is around how we augment and can provide different outcomes. Hugh's already mentioned a couple. Maybe of shortcomings, how we can augment what calling plans can offer, either by reach or capacity or by attribute. But most importantly, this is around helping you make an informed business decision. Now, Hugh's already mentioned the fact that over the last 15, 18 months, we've all been forced to work in a very different environment, and that's created, certain business requirements, certain business challenges. We're very focused on covering 3 of those key points with you and for you. Firstly is that hybrid working. I think as we now draw breath after the last 15 months, most organizations we're talking to are working out and assessing, right, how do we now ready ourselves for the next 2 to 3 years? And the key word that keeps coming back to us is hybrid, the ability to have people in the office when possible, the need to be able to work from anywhere should the need arise. And that's where cloud-based technology plays absolutely into that, and this is the telephony elements of Teams now coming to the forefront. Secondly, it's the productivity, again, enabling you to offer your users, your teams, a single pane of glass. You've got Microsoft Teams potentially as your collaboration tool for workflows. Now you can add in the calling so that, as Hugh's outlined, from a usage perspective, you can make telephony calls in and out of your Teams environment. Both options, whether they be Microsoft calling plans or Scipio direct routing, are using the dial pad within Teams. None of this is third party. Ours is a native integration. Calling plans is native integration. That's important, and I'll explain why in a second. And then fundamentally, we recognize and respect the fact that most organizations have invested heavily into Microsoft. It's a common and core platform for most. And again, this is just another way of augmenting and amplifying your return on investment by effectively turning up another small component of that Teams environment, namely the calling. We recognize it may well be the last piece of work that is undertaken as you migrate from maybe Skype or PBX or other environments, but it's possibly the most important piece. And many organizations are actually leading that transformation based on their voice requirements. Hugh, can you just move on to the next slide, please, sir? Just want to share some feedback we've had from market and then how we respond to it. These are prime challenges we've been thrown in the last 18 months. Initially, activate at speed, clients needed to react quickly and still need to react quickly. Markets are changing dramatically and quickly, whether it's a seasonal business or people just reacting to what's going on in the world. Flexibility in contracts, again, people are asking and wanting the ability to scale up and down users so that you pay for what you use, not being fixed into a 5-year, rigid contract. So again, I'll explain a little more in a second. The key one that keeps coming back is turnkey. Give me something out of the box, ready for consumption. Again, most organizations we're speaking with, whether they be classified as SME, mid-market enterprise or public sector, recognize now that cloud-based solutions out of the box is generally the best way to go. And of course, you can augment them. And again, we've touched on a few of those points, but it gives you confidence that everything is engineered off the Microsoft baseline, and we are adding to that value by bringing the PSTN calling into Teams. And then as Hugh and the team can share with you and support you wherever you're starting from, whether it be traditional PBX, on-premise, or a Skype for Business iteration, or a third-party VoIP platform, there's a migration path to Teams and to enabling that voice in Teams, including things like porting that I'll share with you. Hugh, can you jump onto the next slide? So again, they're the challenges we were set. We responded to them again with a platform that covers the globe, 60 countries. It's hosted in Azure, and it's an important point to make because we respect the fact that security is important. So our services connect straight into the Microsoft tenant, the same as a Microsoft calling plan. It's giving you that confidence of knowing that you're not hopping across different data centers. This is plugging straight into the tenant, providing ultimate security, obviously for the calls and any other additive services you put in there. From a bring to life or a implementation perspective, I've got a subsequent slide, but we focus on building tools and automation that again bring something different compared to calling plans, and respect the fact that wherever possible we want to make this an easy journey for yourself, something that can be supported by Hugh and the team. And he's obviously outlined already how easy it can be to set up the environment. We're talking about tools that bring in the onboarding, replace the traditional PowerShell scripting, giving you the ability to manage your users both day one as you bring this to life, but more importantly day two onwards. And we'll share some insights in the next slide. And then from a just to finish off, from a construction perspective, again, this is built on Cloud Edition technology across 8 Azure regions. So that's offering you global resilience, high availability, and should you have colleagues based across the world, we can provide PSTN replacement services in 60 countries already, and that's growing fast, sort of at the demand of our global clients. You can call anywhere in the world, but actually we can give you local DDIs, local usage, local contracts, local services in at least 60 countries, and that's quite a difference between us and the calling plans, which I think sort of cover 15 to 20 countries. So again, Hugh and I, if this is of interest, we can share with you those insights in more detail subsequently. Hugh, yeah, if you'd like to go on to the next slide, thank you. So again, through Hugh and the team, we can share with you a video or some content upon request. The Scipio voice panel has 4 stages to it. So this is where we can help you bring this to life in a way that complements the demo that Hugh was providing in the setting up of, let's say, call queues and users. This is how you can connect the tenant using automation. On the second slide, you can see at the back there, this is where you then connect to the relevant Azure region. So UK-based people will have calls coming in out of UK South. If you have personnel out in the US or APAC or Europe or Africa, we've got Azure regions there. So you then push the calls to and from those regions. It does 2 things. It provides quality of service, which is important, obviously, in the world of telephony. And secondly, it gives the high availability and redundancy required to offer the 5.9 service that we do. Now, we're in 8 Azure regions. That's 6 primary and 2 secondary. Ultimately, this can be run out of 1 region, should there be an issue. So we are able to provide and stand behind those numbers through how this has been built. And again, extending the services beyond the UK shores. And if you get the chance to watch the video, then you'd see that 3rd stage, having set up the service and connected to the DCs. The 3rd stage is really then how you'll bring your users into the platform. We support the process of all the porting and the work to transition numbers in. That's something we can take away from your good selves as a service. It's partly driven by our carrier team who are experts in that field. So again, we're looking to help the provision of the migration from wherever you may currently be, help you port numbers across that you wish to retain, bring the users to life, and through the process of these tools and others, make sure that the onboarding and user experience drives the business outcomes, but also the adoption that you desire. And with that in mind, we also have in this application videos. So whether they be videos to, in theory, replay what Hugh was sharing with you around the augmentation or the setup of a call queue or how to set up a certain aspect, there are videos in there that are basically training based and knowledge based. But we've also got them set for users. So how to make a call, how to set up a voicemail, how to forward a call. Just small 20, 30-second, 60-second videos that help with the adoption of the platform and help with the adoption of utilization of Teams and the voice enablement in Teams. And the one thing we're keen on is pushing the adoption, not only to help you drive the ROI and the productivity I've mentioned, but we do recognize that by enabling such a platform, the reliance on traditional telephony is beginning to reduce. So it's helping to reduce some of those traditional costs of making phone calls. Peer-to-peer internally, you can talk across the net. You can get customers talking with you in this type of conference environment, and then make an external PSTN call, telephony call, as and when required. But we're actually seeing the use of traditional calling reduced, which again helps from a business point of view without affecting the sort of the confidence or the quality of the service. So just to summarize, where we may either augment or be a little different to Microsoft. And again, the purpose of this is to give you the ability to make informed decisions. Firstly, again, hopefully we've shown you a very quick illustration on automation and what we do to augment and amplify what Microsoft has built. Take a look at our website, and Hugh will send you the links to the videos so you can see this in real time. We've got the greater global reach, so should you have the need or future need of employees or colleagues across the world, we can provide you that coverage and that support. Hugh was pointing out around the packages, there's some differences. So Hugh, if you want to go on to the next slide, and again, just to give you a flavor of what is out there, on the left-hand side, there's what we would call the consumption model. So you effectively have a small charge to get access to the application, and then you pay for calls and other services on top. The SKU, the bundle that's most attributed to the rate card that Hugh showed you at the top of the session, is the third one along, the Business Connect. So that would sit alongside a business voice without calling plan. You plug in a Scipio Business Connect option, which will give you everything I've shared with you around that ready for consumption service, ready to go, but including a bundle of minutes and the porting and all of the tools. But the difference being is, rather than asking you to then pay for another bundle of minutes per user for international calling, we'll only ever charge you for the calls you make internationally. So if as an organization you just make, let's say, an hour's worth of calls to the US next month, that's all you'd be charged with, rather than having to buy another license per user for international calling. So again, just subtle differences, worth being aware of. And again, the migration piece, we have a lot of clients that bring integration requirements. It could be a door entry system, it could be a fax machine, it could be manufacturing where there's copper wire phones, in massive manufacturing plants. This is where there's some subtle differences, but some important differences around how we, through Hugh and his team, can help you integrate that either for the long term or work through a migration plan to step away from that sort of analog environment into the digital world of Teams telephony. I think I've already covered the porting piece, so there's additional services there. One thing just to make as a clear statement, Hugh and his team provide that modern workplace expertise. We by design double down on the voice piece. So we're voice experts. That's where we spend our time. That's where we've invested our dollars in this platform. But more importantly, we can bring that expertise to you to help you with the discovery process, or look at what's the best solution or the recommended solution for an opportunity presented to us, or a business challenge presented to us. Okay, so again, that's available through and with Hugh's team. And then finally, as you've probably seen, and hopefully we've been able to relay this message, everything we talk about today is leveraging the phone system engineering with inside Teams. We integrate natively into that, as does the Microsoft calling plan, so there's similarities there. And Hugh was talking about other services that can augment or cover some of those shortcomings of the calling plan side of the business. So again, we can talk with you around other services for call reporting, should you need specific reporting as outlined by Hugh, call recording for those MiFID and regulated markets, or MiFID standards for regulated markets, and even call queues where you may have a help desk environment that brings the need for advanced queuing and advanced call distribution. So again, all of those available. Too many to cover on today's call, but just to share with you that they again are native integrations and leveraging the core phone system, but adding to that service to give you what you may need. I think that covers everything for the time being, Hugh, so I'll hand back to you, and we'll look forward to taking some questions at the end of the call.
Brilliant. Thank you, Neil. Great. So yeah, especially useful, Scipio, around Business Voice is kind of limited in some of the functionalities. It's not available in all of the countries. The reporting can be lacking for organizations that are reliant heavily on the reporting side of things, and the flexibility that the platform arises means that for some of the specific challenges that you come across, that it's a fantastic platform that can help with that. So it's something that we'd leverage a lot for that side of things. Very briefly around the hardware. So there's basically some tools that are available to us that help us determine the best hardware on that. So what Microsoft have kind of built is a Teams devices overview page, which allows you to kind of specify the space or what you're looking for to integrate with Microsoft Teams. So we partner with Jabra and Poly, and there's a lot of devices on here where you can kind of say, if you're looking for a particular space, I can hit view by space here. We'll send this link to everyone in the follow-up we do. But you can see I've kind of got in transit, in public, I've got types of office environments and office meeting rooms and stuff. So if you're looking to try and kit out your employees or your workspace as people start to go back to the office, this is a fantastic resource that can be used for that. One thing I think a lot of people are going to have a challenge with kind of going back to the workplace is they haven't thought about the headsets. So you've got lots of people who are working from home at the moment. They're using perhaps iPhone headsets. They might not even be using a headset at all. If you're kind of got your voice system set up and you're hosting meetings, what you're going to find is as soon as people start going back to the office is there's going to be an awful lot of background noise and those calls aren't going to be functional or feasible. So the kind of headsets that are available from Jabra, Poly allow you to have automated noise cancelling on them, so that on my microphone that I have here, I've got a microphone on the outside which cancels all the noise out of the background of the office, and then I've got a microphone on the inside which is capturing my voice. So I think it's something that you guys should kind of really think about as people start going back to the office. If you've invested in Microsoft Teams or you've invested in Business Voice, you're going to really need to think about how those headsets are going to work, and are you going to have any challenges there. And again, if you're looking to kit out your space when you get back to the office and you're going to start really embracing Microsoft Teams and you want to set up a meeting room, you can kind of choose the meeting space within here, and it'll give you back some ideas of the best options that you have depending on your budget and cost as well. So that's something to kind of consider. In terms of Business Voice itself, we've got a really simple pricing model for kind of standard setups where we kind of got fixed price. We charge this based on an £150 initial setup, and we then charge £70 per licensed user. So this is designed for small organizations of maybe 1 to 50 users who are looking to quickly get set up with the Business Voice platform. For the more complicated ones, where there's lots of regions, you're looking to port away from a traditional phone system, get in touch and we can kind of talk you through that and explain what the costs would be involved. But this should give you an understanding of how easy it would be and how cost effective it would be for you guys to set this platform up. The kind of just a quick useful links, our YouTube channel. We're kind of obviously hosting lots of webinars on a frequent basis, so you'll find those there. The Microsoft 365 roadmap shows you all the upcoming features. So if you think that the call reporting is something that you'd really want from the Business Voice platform, then this link will show you what's coming in Teams and Business Voice and when that will be available to you. And now we've kind of opened up for a few questions that I can see that have kind of dropped in throughout the session today. So I think, Jade, have you got some questions that we can run through?
So the first one being, can recording be controlled at tenant level, enable/disable, and does the party know the full?
You're a bit quiet, but I think I got the question. So can recording be controlled at the tenant level, and does the other party know that the call's being recorded? So as it stands now, currently, the call recording can't be set up as like a contact solution where we're globally recording all of the calls. It's a limitation, and it's where you would look at a third-party provider, which Neil kind of mentioned around that there's third-party providers that you can plug into Business Voice that are a fixed monthly fee, and that'll then enable you to do the call recording. And the other party wouldn't know if you do a manual or an ad hoc call recording unless you inform them manually as well. So neither of those are available as it stands currently. Was there another question, Jade?
Yeah. Does a license per user allow concurrent calls for every licensed user simultaneously, or is this restricted by number of SIP channels?
Neil?
Yeah, so good question. And you've got one clearly that's sort of old world versus new world. Historically, when you bought telephony, you'd have a channel that had limitations, i.e. you bought a number of channels, which meant you could make a number of current calls, and it was normally 4-to-1 through to 10-to-1, which was okay from a cost point of view until you had peaks and troughs in your business. I'm very pleased to say, as far as Scipio is concerned, and I believe it's the same for the calling plans, what you get on a user basis is effectively, from a Scipio point of view, absolutely a non-blocking service. Everybody can be making calls at the same time. That's the way we've built our network for one of those key reasons, because we knew it was becoming a bit of a problem in the old world of telephony, especially when clients have peaks and troughs or seasonal business.
Okay, so the next question is, are we able to use our current supplier of SIP channels for Teams rather than porting our numbers to another carrier?
So,
sorry, Hugh, do you want me to take that one?
Yes. Well, briefly then, you would generally look to port the numbers into the platform. You wouldn't look to utilise the existing SIP channels as part of that. I don't know what you were going to add, Neil.
Well, only that in some cases, and again, happy to take the conversation into sort of more detail with individual if it's critical. We have had some global clients where they've been stuck in a 2 to 3 year existing contract with a major telco, and we've been able to bring that SIP trunk in only for that, just to facilitate calling in Teams whilst that contract runs off. So again, technically it's available. Happy to have a more detailed conversation to understand the potential need or demand. But there's an outcome, which is, as you say, Hugh, it's actually leveraging these platforms in their entirety. But we can certainly take that one offline if needed.
Yeah, and from a business voice perspective, you can't do anything like that from the SIP channels, but you can easily port your numbers into the platform for 365. So there's quite an easy porting process to get your existing numbers into 365 if needed.
Okay, so what reporting is available for call handling and usage?
So the out-of-the-box stuff is quite limited. It's just what I kind of inferred. We can see the calls that have been sent and received, and it's even quite limited on the call queue. So if you've set up a call queue, you can't really see who's picked those calls up and who's waiting and stuff. But Neil, perhaps you've got a solution as well.
Yeah, so we, and this is where obviously there are third-party but native additives with Microsoft-approved partners. There are some options to bring in advanced call queues. So this is typically where a client might have a help desk environment where that advanced queuing is required, or the advanced reporting is required, or effectively heading towards a contact center. And those solutions absolutely can bring that next level of intelligence for the call queuing, the dispersion and management of calls, but also with it the next level of detail on call reporting. So what's happened to the call once it's gone through the calls, the queues, the attendant console, and the auto attendant, and to the actual recipient or agent. So they are very much available, and as Hugh said, we'd be delighted to take specific requests after this session to get into that detail. But there are solutions there, commercially viable, approved by Microsoft, and again, all part of this whole ecosystem of enhancing the core phone system within Teams.
The next question is, our company is located in the Netherlands. Is Microsoft Business Voice available to us as well?
So Neil, do you want to take that from your perspective?
I am just going to dive in. Let's take the next question. I'll come back to that one if I may, Jade. I'm just going to double check. I have the details with me, but I don't want to keep people waiting. So if there's another question, I'll dig out the answer to that in a second, because we have got coverage there. I just want to look through the particular SKUs. Bear with me.
So from a business voice perspective, in terms of the call plans that Microsoft provide, they only provide the call plans currently in Canada, United Kingdom, and United States. So that means that the only other option you would have would be down the direct routing piece, which would need a third-party provider to do so. So yeah, it's something that we can, if you can perhaps reach out, we can come back to you and let you know if it's available in Netherlands through Scipio.
Yeah, we have some bundles out there, not Business Connect, but we have some bundles out there. And forgive me, I'm obviously looking through 60 countries and I don't know them all off the top of my head, but most of Western Europe brings very similar SKUs. So again, happy to, as Hugh said, take that specific question and go into a bit more detail. But certainly services are there, and certain SKUs are there, and bundles are there.
Perfect. Is there any more questions, Jade?
No, I think that's it for now.
Okay, fantastic. Well, thank you very much for your presentation, Neil, and thank you very much for everybody else for attending today. And we'll be looking to kind of send the video out later today or first thing tomorrow. So look out for an email and we'll send that over to everybody. And if you do have any questions, feel free to reach out to myself or hello@valto.co.uk, and we can kind of help with any other requirements or questions you may have. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.